In early 1923, coming from Bredasdorp, a small girl born without arms and legs named Rachel Clutie inspired two founders who established this remarkable fund, who was inspired by her courage and honored her name by calling it the Rachel Swart Fund. After being registered in 1960, this fund has lifted off to magnificent turning points in those in need of wheelchairs and other appliances to make life easier and better. In studio today, we will find out more about these inspiring stories as well as getting to know this incredible fund. My name is Megan Skulls and welcome to Change. Today I'm joined by Joy, who is the manager at the Rachel Fund Swart. Welcome and thank you for joining me today, Joy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I think let's get right into it. I firstly want to know, what is the role of the Rachel Swart Fund?
Okay, well, the Rachel Swart Fund offers a service to therapists who are working with people living with disabilities, mainly obviously in the poorer communities who could never provide for themselves these necessary mobility devices that they need. So the therapists would make an application to us for a wheelchair, and we would take it from there.
Okay. There seems to be quite a bit of a background behind this fund. Can you tell us what is the history behind the Rachel Swart Fund?
Okay, I love sharing the story of the Rachel Swart Fund because it is such an inspirational story. Rachel Clutie, at the time, was born in 1923, as you mentioned, and she was born without any limbs, and for you and I think we would find that to be rather a challenge, but for Rachel it was the normal, and she grew up like that, and it was, and she just went on and overcome all the challenges. One of the things that she often would speak about when growing up, say to her mother, Mom, when I grow up, I want to get married and have children. And her mother always said to her, Rachel, such things are not for you. But we know that Rachel did fall in love, and she met Pete Swart, and she did get married, and she had 2 children. And I think that in itself is a beautiful story, a lovely love story. And then she was also a very good seamstress. She used to sew and do embroidery with her stumps in her mouth and what have you. And one day she was demonstrating that work on one of the farms in the area, and a local journalist, Pete Bierkes, one of the funders, he was at the market, saw what she was doing, and then did an article about what this remarkable woman was doing without any limbs. And just so happened that at the time there was a philanthropist from the UK visiting Bredasdorp. Him and his wife would come to South Africa for the warmer climate, and because he was learning how to speak Afrikaans, he purposely read Die Landstem newspaper and saw this and said, how can I help this young lady? And she asked, she said she would love a car for her husband to drive them around, and she wanted electricity in her home as opposed to the gas that they were using at the time. And as a result of that, a relationship developed with these 3 individuals, and tragically, after Rachel gave birth to her 2nd child, she passed away. And Sir John Ellerman, that was the philanthropist from the UK, he then went on and informally assisted people living with disabilities. And then, like you said, in 1960, they registered it as a welfare organization.
That is an incredible story. And with this kind of inspiration to make a difference in people's lives, what are some of the challenges that you may find?
I think challenges for any NGO are always, just trying to find that funding, to keep going, and it's to find funders who have a focus in the disability sector. And keeping relationships going with donors, just keeping them interested in what you're doing and demonstrating your impact and that sort of thing. Also, I think awareness is so important, even opportunities like this to come and say who we are and what we do, so that people can, and also with therapists, a lot of if in the government sector, there are therapists who know us, but there's always a turnover, and so people will come along and they're not aware of the service that we offer and how they can approach the fund. And so that's part of my work, is sort of even traveling throughout, because we do the service that we offer is not just Cape Town, Western Province, it's throughout South Africa.
Okay.
So I'll travel and do awareness sort of promotions and things like that, so people can find out more about us and what we do.
Absolutely. You mentioned bringing out awareness, obviously to other people as well. What is the significant value of finding wheelchairs for these hopefuls?
Well, I think that's part of what has been one of the sort of exciting points and highlights for me in working for the fund, is seeing what a significant difference it makes in these people's lives. It's just, mobility is just such a crucial thing. Absolutely. And they are just so grateful. People go from being bedridden, or cooped up in one place, and now being able to not have to wait for somebody to get them out of the house and do something with them, but they are independent. Independence is huge, and to be included, they can get out in the day and be part of their community and their families. Also, the mobility device makes it easier then for the family to take them out and do things with them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all of those wonderful, significant, I think, details, especially for our viewers. And if you've just tuned in, we've got to go and take a quick commercial break. But when we get back, we'll continue speaking to Joy and maybe meet some of these inspiring people. Let's go for a quick break. We are often morally bound to help those in need and a little extra support. It takes special people like the Rachel Swart Fund to help those in need and care. In studio today, I was chatting to Joy Badham Thornhill, who is the manager of the Rachel Swart Fund, and now in studio I'm joined by Ichchan Hendricks and Christine Timotheus, who are beneficiaries of this wonderful fund. Thank you, Ichchan and Christine, for joining me, and welcome.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Ichchan, I think we'll start with you. Tell us about your story.
My story starts before 1986. I was raised in Hanover Park, able-bodied, active young athlete, sports lover, rugby, soccer, cricket, athletics, and I've never been an academic person. We moved from Hanover Park to Mitchell's Plain in 85, and the 8th of January 86, I had a diving accident and I broke my neck, so I became a quadriplegic, paralyzed from the neck down. It was extremely difficult to accept my new body because I was unable to do all of the things that made me independent. So being a single child, my father was the only one who worked. So for us, we couldn't afford many of the things that I needed to give me a push and extra help. So in 1987, I returned to school. I had to go to a special school because I needed therapy, and I had to be in a smaller class because I had to learn to type with my mouth. And I completed grade 10 and 11. And then I felt I needed to do something more with my life. When I looked around me, there wasn't many options. I was dependent on others to push me around because at the time I was using a manual chair. And being an only child, my mother always told me, someday you will have to be able to look after yourself. I will not be there for always to do that. And with all of their help, they inspired me to do more with my life. I always felt I wanted to make them feel proud. So I remember this one day at Eros School, I told two of my friends who were also in wheelchairs that one day I want to complete matric. I would like to go to university. I would like to get a job, employ someone to work for me, get my own transport, move into my own house and get married. And they said, "You're crazy, it will never happen." But then, from sports I always learned to be competitive and to try my best and not to give up. So, I've always been the type of person who wanted to prove others wrong, but also in a sense that it brings out the best of me. So my social worker I had at the time, she informed me of the Rachel Swart Fund. And I explained to my social worker what I would need to help me realize my dreams. And my social worker at the time, she made the necessary application for electric wheelchair for me, a computer. And in the late 80s, to have a computer was a big thing because it was not as prevalent as you would have it today. So I was very fortunate that from the time I started matric, in my mind I already had a path which I knew I wanted to take. And everything that I asked the Rachel Swart Fund, they provided me with it. I still remember the first day I got the electric wheelchair, which is the same one I'm sitting in today. And the chair is 30 years old already. I looked very well after it in terms of maintaining it and not taking unnecessary chances with the chair. So I was fortunate with all of the support of the Rachel Swart Fund. They provided me with batteries every year for my chair, a tape recorder, a typewriter, all of the tools I needed to make a success of my studies. I was fortunate that in the year I started matric, my father started at Stellenbosch University. And you could say it was all God planned.
Absolutely.
And with the effort of myself and the support of the Rachel Swart Fund, I realized all my dreams.
Absolutely.
Within the 10-year period I gave myself. So at age 27, in 1987, I started as a school psychologist. I completed at university a BA degree, honors in psychology, and a higher education diploma over a 6-year period. Obviously with the support of many others. special thanks to my parents and to all the students who did maybe very small things, passerbys, people who didn't even know, who opened the door, who took out the book, who pressed the button at the elevator. All of them helped with the success that I have achieved.
Absolutely. I do just want to go to Christine. Thank you so much, Irshan. I'm trying to hold back the tears here, let's be honest. Because, I mean, I think, like you mentioned, you were able-bodied until a certain age, and it must have been a very big adjustment. And yes, a big thank you to all those people for the little things that, that they've done. Christine, I know your story is a little bit different. I think you were about 1.5 years and you had the polio virus. Tell us a little bit more about your story.
Well, I was 1.5 years old. All I can remember, I landed up in a home. And my parents used to blame each other. You let her fall, but they never gave me the injections. They never took me for that normal stuff. Anyway, and then I landed up at St. Joseph's Home for disabled children. And there I stayed until I was 18 years old. When you're 18, you have to go out. Yes. You have to go out in the big world. You don't know what to do or what to get. So you have to educate yourself. And then I landed up in another home where everybody was grown-ups and I was the only youngster there. And then you have to learn yourself how to stay grounded and stuff. But I didn't have my parents like he did, because my parents gave me put me in a home when I was like 1.5 years old, and then I had to learn to do. Wait a minute. I have to learn to
Fend for yourself, basically.
But it was quite an experience, because I became a tomboy and I became wild, and then I always did stuff for myself, and I didn't want anybody's help. And like I said to Joy, I used to be called a hobo at weekends, because weekends I used to get it. I used to get sick of the homes, and I some go somewhere just to get away. But it was fine.
Wow. Joy, I now see why you get up every morning and you do this. Two completely different stories. Christine from a young age, Irshan maybe a little bit older. Listening to Irshan's story, as a mom myself, I don't know, how I would have coped in that, with something like that. And for me as well, I think I've worked with girls coming from homes as well. I know, the struggles that they go through every day. And, besides saying just thank you to the Rachel Swart Fund, and like Irshan said earlier on, it's a huge thank you just to every single person, the person, helping pushing that elevator button or opening the door But I think the biggest, thanks goes to the Rachel Swart Fund for what you are doing, for people like these every single day.
Well, I went to the Rachel Swart Fund 1.5 years ago when I went. I was going at Canal Walk and I couldn't. I call this my pap tire, because the gripping is not so good anymore. And someday I was gripping and was pushing my wheelchair. And then I almost fell in that big, long passage.
Wow.
So then I decided, and also when I went to work, and people go out for lunch and I can't go, I have to see who's off with me so that they can push me. So that's why I said, no, I have to go to Rachel Swart. I swallowed my pride.
So you've only been there for 1.5 years, just over a year. Am I correct in saying that?
Well, she's been a beneficiary of ours.
Okay.
Yeah, we helped her about 1.5 years ago.
Okay.
But prior to that, she was using the manual chair, which has its challenges,
Of
which has its
course.
limits.
Of course.
And especially if you're going far distances, she would need someone to push her. Now you just hear Christine up and down the passage, just this wheelchair sound, and she doesn't obey the speed restrictions.
Absolutely.
I can't take it when my wheelchair's away from me for a day.
I think we need to go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back after this commercial. Welcome back. My name is Megan Skulls and you're watching Changed. And if you've just joined me, today I'm joined by Joy Badham Thornhill, Christine Timotheus and Ikshan Hendricks, who are from the Rachel Swart Fund. And they have just been sharing the most inspiring stories. And wow, definitely a tearjerker. Joy, I just have a couple of questions for you. Firstly, have you got any up-and-coming fundraisers for this year?
We actually just had one. So yeah, we had a concert at the Mars Theatre. But besides that, we are registered charity for the Two Oceans Old Mutual Two Oceans Marathon. Yes. So that every year we get runners to run for us. So towards the end of the year, people can look out for if they're wanting to run the charity for a cause and to do it for our organisation. We normally try to sign up about 50 charity runners, and they raise funds for us, which is normally very effective. Yeah, we raise quite a bit through that.
Well, I'm considering doing it next year, so yeah. I'm not there yet. And then obviously I think the biggest question is, how can the community get involved, and also just some contact details as to how people can contact you to get involved.
Okay. Well, like I said, we're a service to therapists who would approach us, and just adding to that, we like to also just reinforce that we are a last resort. I mean, people do come to us for help, but we do try to encourage people. In fact, people have to first go through the government department to the Department of Health and go through the hospital systems that are in place. Once they've done that, they can come to us. Our details are all on our website. rachelswart.org.za. We have a Facebook page that they can follow us on. And our contact details would be on the website. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining me, and good luck for the future. And Joy, what your fund is doing is absolutely inspiring. And to Christine and Ikshan, good luck with everything else, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we've come to the end of yet another show. However, if you are an NGO or an NPO and would like to become a member of CTV, you can email us at reception@capetowntv.org, and your NGO could be featured right here on Change. But from me, Megan Skulls, I just want to remind you to always be the change you want to see.